everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that's been on my mind a lot lately. It's all about how the meanings of words are changing.
Oh yeah, language is always evolving.
Yeah.
But it feels like nowadays those changes are happening faster and in a more intentional way, almost like they're being weaponized.
Right. It's not just slang or new technology terms, it's like fundamental shifts in how we define really important concepts. And that can have a huge impact on how we see the world and each other.
Absolutely. Words have power. They shape our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions. So when those words are redefined or even invented, it can really change the game.
Okay, so to really dig into this, we're turning to a YouTube video called The Original and the Leftist Meanings of Certain Words from the channel, The Real Truth Will Prevail.
Interesting title. It sounds like they have a pretty strong perspective on this issue.
They definitely do. And I'm not saying we agree with everything they say, but it raises some really important questions about how language is being used and who benefits from those changes.
It's always good to challenge our own assumptions and consider different viewpoints, especially when it comes to something as fundamental as language.
So the video breaks down this linguistic shift into two main categories: redefining existing words and inventing entirely new ones.
Makes sense. Let's start with the redefinitions, shall we?
Yeah, so this first one is pretty interesting, Ally. It used to be a pretty straightforward term, right? Like countries forming an alliance during wartime.
Right. Partnerships, solidarity for a common goal.
But the video argues that it's morphed into something way more specific. Now it almost exclusively refers to someone who supports LGBTQ individuals.
I see what they're getting at. The meaning has definitely narrowed and become tied to a specific social group.
They even use phrases like rainbow chaser and fairy godmother to describe allies. It almost feels like they're mocking it.
Well, it does highlight how the word has taken on these very specific connotations. It's no longer just about general support. It's about aligning yourself with a particular identity.
Okay, so this next one is even more provocative. Domestic terrorist. Remember when that term actually meant something truly terrifying?
Like someone plotting mass violence for political reasons? Definitely a very specific and serious charge.
But the video claims that it's being used much more broadly now to label anyone who challenges authority, like concerned parents at school board meetings.
Wow, that seems like a pretty big leap.
And they go even further, saying even vegan pet owners are being lumped into this category.
Vegan pet owners? Really? That seems like a stretch.
It does make you wonder if the word is being intentionally overused to the point where it loses its impact.
If everything is terrorism, then nothing is terrorism, right?
Right. It's like they're trying to shut down any kind of dissent or debate by labeling anyone who disagrees as dangerous.
Interesting point. Moving on, conspiracy theory. Traditionally, this referred to beliefs that were pretty outlandish or fringe, right?
Yeah. Like alien abductions or the Earth being flat.
But the video argues that now conspiracy theory is slacked onto any observation about the left that they don't like.
Like if you question certain policies or narratives, you're automatically a conspiracy theorist.
It's a way to discredit dissenting viewpoints without actually having to engage with the arguments.
Okay, this next one is interesting because it has such a specific meaning in today's world: transition. It used to just mean any kind of change from one state to another.
Right, like a caterpillar transitioning into a butterfly.
But now it's almost exclusively associated with gender identity.
Which reflects the growing visibility and acceptance of transgender individuals.
But the video frames it as yet another example of the left hijacking language for their agenda.
It seems they see this as a deliberate attempt to control the narrative, rather than a natural evolution of language.
Okay, here are two that I think really get to the heart of the video's argument: diversity and inclusive.
The video claims diversity is now just code for more Black people.
Which seems to narrow down a very broad concept to just one aspect.
And they go on to say that inclusive now actually means exclusive.
So it's like they're arguing that efforts to be more inclusive are actually creating more division.
It's definitely a controversial take.
Yeah.
But it taps into this idea that social justice initiatives can sometimes have unintended consequences.
Okay, next up is far right. According to the video, this term is being used to describe anyone who holds even slightly conservative views.
It speaks to this growing polarization in our society, where people are quick to label and demonize anyone who disagrees with them.
And the video even brings up fascism, quoting Ronald Reagan's famous line, "If fascism ever comes to America, it will come in the name of liberalism."
Wow, powerful quote.
But they argue that now fascism is being used as a catch-all term for anyone who resists government control regardless of their actual beliefs.
It's interesting how historical terms can be repurposed and weaponized in modern political debates.
Nationalist is another one that's become tricky. It can mean someone who's patriotic, who loves their country,
Right, a sense of pride and belonging.
but it's also part of the term white nationalist, which has very different connotations.
So the video suggests that this is intentional, a way to link patriotism with white supremacy and smear anyone who expresses national pride.
Basically, guilt by association, even if the person isn't actually racist.
It's a powerful rhetorical tactic for sure.
This next one has been popping up a lot lately, Christian nationalist. The video claims this is the latest attempt to demonize conservatives, especially those who are religious.
They suggest it's a way to scare people into thinking that Christians are trying to take over the country and impose their values on everyone.
Yeah, I say it's all about creating this narrative of us versus them and painting conservatives as the enemy.
It definitely feeds into this climate of fear and division that we're seeing in society.
And finally, we get to what the video calls the best-known redefinition of them all, racism.
So the traditional definition is pretty straightforward, right? Racial prejudice or discrimination.
But the video says the left has added a new element, power. They argue that racism now requires both prejudice and deep power.
Meaning, according to them, that only white people can be racist because they hold the power in society.
It's a controversial definition for sure. The video calls it a racist definition of racism.
It's a very charged topic,
Yeah.
and one that sparks a lot of debate.
Okay, before we get into the whole world of invented words, let's wrap up the redefinitions with one last example. Nazi.
A word with immense historical weight and horror.
But the video argues that it's been so overused, often in really hyperbolic ways, that it's lost its impact.
It's like the boy who cried wolf. If you call everyone a Nazi, then the word loses its power.
I mean, we become desensitized to its true meaning, which is a dangerous thing because it trivializes a really horrific chapter of history.
Absolutely. Words have consequences, and we should use them carefully, especially when dealing with such sensitive topics. Okay, so we've talked about how existing words are being redefined, but the video goes even further and says that the left is actually inventing whole new words.
And yes, some of these are pretty out there, like Maggie, extremists. I mean, a few years ago, Maggie was just a campaign slogan.
Right, make America great again.
Yeah. But now it's become this label to dismiss anyone who supports certain political ideas. The video actually defines a MAGA extremist as just a sensible person.
Kind of ironic, right?
Yeah, but it shows how loaded even simple phrases can become. It's like the meaning has completely shifted in the public discourse.
Exactly, and that's what the video is really highlighting, how language can be used to completely reframe perceptions and create these new narratives.
Okay, so this next one, neurodivergent. The video presents it in a pretty negative light, suggesting it's used to imply some kind of false intellectual superiority.
They focus on the negative aspects, like narcissism, almost as if people who identify as neurodivergent are just trying to make themselves seem special.
It's a bit harsh, don't you think? I mean, we've learned so much more about neurodiversity in recent years, and there's a growing awareness of how different brains work.
It is a pretty provocative interpretation. It raises the question of how the increasing awareness of neurodiversity might be perceived or even weaponized by different groups.
Okay, this next one is a bit disturbing. Minor attracted people. The video is pretty clear that this is just a euphemism for pedophiles.
Ugh, it's really chilling how language can be manipulated to try to normalize or sanitize something that's so harmful.
It makes you wonder, what's the intention behind using a phrase like that? Are they trying to minimize the severity or shift public perception?
It raises some serious ethical questions about the limits of language and the responsibility we have to use it in a way that reflects the gravity of certain actions.
Okay, so this next one, othered. It seems like every time I turn around, there's a new word to describe something that already had a perfectly good word.
Right, like we already have words for discrimination and prejudice.
Exactly. The video argues that othered is just a fancy new way of saying those things.
It's interesting. There's definitely a trend to constantly invent new terms sometimes for things that already have names.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels like you need a whole new dictionary just to keep up with the latest social justice lingo.
It can be a barrier to communication for sure. It's important to be aware of these evolving terms, but also to recognize that they might just be repackaging old ideas.
Unhoused is another example of that. It's supposed to be a more sensitive way of saying homeless.
But the video makes fun of it, suggesting it's this overreaction to avoid any potentially triggering language.